that you love the secret Mason books. You gotta go somewhere and try to stick it out. But everybody that's leading this country knows that there's a spiritual realm. But the people, the masses, the ones that we deal with every day, it's been brainwashed out of you. And this, I want to get this one quote. This lady says, we're gonna go back to 9/11, but she talks about how children build blocks and crash planes into the blocks before 9/11. But another thing she said on the tape was how children are more intuitive. And what happens is when you go to school, it's brainwashed out of you. Right. So let me just get this for 1 second.
Moment with Dr. Lori Davis. We continue talking about precognitive dreams on Coast to Coast AM. Lori, tell us this incredible story about children playing with blocks in California. Building towers. Go ahead.
A day or two before 9/11, which was on a Tuesday, and a colleague of mine was running a preschool group, and children were building towers out of blocks. And then they took some toy airplanes out of the toy box and were crashing them into the towers of blocks.
And what were children doing?
Some children were crying, but they didn't know why they were doing it. There were several children that were just building the towers and then crashing them with the toy planes. And my friend had a sense that something was going on, but she didn't know, of course, why they were doing that. But she definitely sensed that it was something was compelling them to do that.
Why children?
Well, children are more receptive, they're more intuitive than adults. We learn how to turn it off when we're in school. But I think the studies show that I think it's 43.8% of children between 8 and 12 tend to follow their intuition comfortably and naturally. By the time we become adults, that's 25% of American adults trust their intuition. So about 50% of us learn to turn it off. We don't trust it. We're told, it's your imagination. It's just a dream. If you dream something, if you have a disturbing dream, maybe it's giving you information about something that's going to happen.
We'll come back to this in 1 second, but she said you learn to turn it off. Right. Or again, our society by being materialism is an ism. Right. That once you embrace materialism, then you forego being led by the Spirit. Right. Because if you think that this material world is all there is, and you are all that you can see, feel, and touch with your five senses is all that there is in the physical realm. Once you leave this realm, you figure, well, I'm going to do what I can while I'm on the earth plane, because when I leave, there's nothing else. There's no more. That's what materialism is. Right. They just know the Spirit. So that ism doesn't have to be as sinister as Nazism or whatever ism that you want to put in there. It could be materialism. That's something that most Americans believe in. And when you believe in it, you have dismissed a whole other side of you, a whole other part of creation that you could tap into for information. Everybody wants information. You think Obama would back the Olympics and go over there with his wife if he knew the thing wasn't going to be, given to Chicago? If he had that information beforehand, he would have said, well, I'm not going to go. The United States has had it 8 times before, or this will be this would have been the 8th time. And so I'm not going to, bother. It's going to go to Rio. But because he didn't have information, everybody's all excited, this whole thing with the health bill he's trying to pass. If the guy knew it was going to be this much trouble and cause this much problem, maybe he would have took a different route. So everybody's looking for information, but no one knows where to go for that information. Right within you. You always said I dwell within you. I am that, just like this, you have a physical brain in your body, and your body can do nothing without that brain leading you. You have spirit within your soul. And that spirit leads and guides you, just like this cloud led Israel from Egypt through the wilderness of Sinai over into Canaan. When the cloud moved, they moved. When the cloud stopped, they stopped. But they followed this cloud. As long as they were obedient to the cloud, Israel didn't have no problems. And as Don said one of his lectures 2 weeks ago, when Israel couldn't win a battle, when Israel was having problems fighting a Gentile nation, they knew something was up. Because wait a minute, Israel means having power without the sons and daughters of Elohim. We're supposed to be manifesting power. Now, if we try to fight a Gentile nation and we can't win, then something has happened within our body to make us weak, to make us susceptible. And then they found out, this guy was coveting some kind of Babylonian garment. Thank you. You know, some carnal, some Babylonian garment. It was confusion. Babylon means confusion. So he was covering something with confusion instead of seeking Yahweh. And then when they found out who it was covering the garment, they had to take him and his wife and his whole family. I mean, Israel didn't play. When you broke the law, everyone's like, oh, this is so cold, this is so cruel. The God of the Jews is just so unmerciful. And this is, well, there are certain laws that everyone must follow. There's a law of health. We're made up body, soul, and spirit. There's a psychological law and a spiritual law. Right. And if you break any of these laws in any of these realms, you got hell to pay. That's right. Because all the devil has to do is just get you to break the law. Just like he did with Eve in the garden. All he had to do was say, did he say that, you could touch every tree in the garden? He said, you won't surely. She said, Yahweh told us we could eat anything in the garden. But this tree, fruit of this tree, if we touch it, we're going to die. She knew the law. He said, oh, you won't surely die. How do you know if you eat this tree, you shall be like him, knowing good and evil? Don't you want to be like Elohim? She didn't know she's already like Elohim. She didn't have to eat no fruit. You didn't have to do nothing physical. All you got to do is go within and ask the Father to reveal himself unto you. Because this is your source and substance. This is your information. This is where you get all your revelations, your inspirations. Anything that's going to make you, a better person, develop character, it comes from within. And this is what we, come together for. This is why we belabor these charts. So much our founder, I can't even get it. He said, look, anybody can count 3 can understand this. You don't need a PhD. You don't need to go studying for years and years and reading books. All you got to do is, if you can believe, 1, 2, 3, ABC. Corbin about holy place, most holy place, Egypt, wilderness, the Canaan land, gas, liquid, solid, all the other 3s that we go through. This is your faith in me. So this whole thing, this whole point about children being more intuitive and listening to that voice within. See, they haven't been brainwashed yet, but they try to get them as young as they can. They try to get them younger and younger, and they want to brainwash out all the intuition and all the faith that children. Because a lot of kids, if you don't tell them, if you just, for example, if you just play with a child and say, what color am I thinking? They don't know that they really, most people don't know what you're thinking. They might tell you to come because they don't know. So you just, talk to a young child and say, I got a color in mind. What color am I thinking? And they say, oh, you're thinking yellow. Oh, I am thinking yellow. Well, how did they know that? Some came to them, like you didn't tell them verbally, but children don't know that they aren't supposed to already know that. So you can develop some gifts with children just by, little exercises with them and help them develop their intuitiveness more than a normal child would in a Babylonian world. So I'm going to go to this other part because this other part of this particular tape, she talks about this girl, 11-year-old girl, who dreamed of her mother who had died. And the woman had died so horrifically, the 11-year-old kept dreaming about her mother screaming. And you'll find out where they found her mother. 1 second.
Chances are you had your intuition discounted. And one of the very first stories that I reported on in Sixth Sense goes back a while was an 11-year-old girl named Kelly Taberski, Canton, Michigan, who had a series of dreams that her mother, who had disappeared, her mother was tied up and screaming for help. And these dreams were so vivid and disturbing and lucid that this kid went to the Canton, Michigan detectives, who were the people who I spoke to for my story.
Now this is a child who's so disturbed. Now remember when the Messiah so disturbed the woman who was Pontius Pilate's wife? He said, I have been greatly troubled. She went to Pontius Pilate and said, leave this ragged man alone. You can't imagine the nightmares I've had. All that. I've been told this man's wife. So this girl was receiving these types of dreams that just forced her. She's only 11 years old. Who 11-year-old gonna go to police? You know, now somebody's already investigated the murder, but she has been so driven by these drugs. She's only 11 years old. What 11-year-old you know gonna go to a police station? You know, now somebody's already investigated the murder, but she has been so driven by these dreams that she's gonna go to authority and say, look, my mother's been speaking to me in a dream, and you gotta find her. Listen to this.
And she reported these dreams, and they investigated, and they found a freezer in the basement of her home where she used to live with her father that was covered in chains and padlocks. And when they broke into it, they found her mother's murdered body there.
So here this child has been living with the murderer of her father. That's the whole point, you know. But it wouldn't have been noticed. I mean, you know, as far as he knew, he got away with crime.
Right.
He walked away, nobody suspected him, you know, he's there living with his children, and all of a sudden the children start having dreams. You don't know what Yahweh, so to say everything done in the dark will come to light, but you don't know how Yahweh's going to reveal something to people that, you know, no one knows about but you and Yahweh and whoever was in the room that day. I'm going to go back one more, because he talks about people dreaming of horrible events. 1 second.
People too who dream of events, tragedies, murders. The horrible case a couple of weeks ago in Oklahoma, a minister, she was murdered in the church. And, you know, they really didn't even want to describe the crime scene, but she was laid out like a crucifix, and her head practically severed. I'm sure there are people out there who have probably had those kinds of dreams before these days.
Did you all hear about that? This was a black minister in Oklahoma. You know, Oklahoma's primarily white. And this crime scene was so horrific that they wouldn't describe it. They just said that, you know, it was the worst that they had ever seen, and this guy had been in homicide for like, you know, 20 years or so. And so he had seen some horrible scenes, horrible killings. And he said her head was almost decapitated in the way that they had arranged the body with some kind of ritualistic way. But this was like, maybe it was about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, something like that. Okay.
That's true, and many of them, you know, call the police, or they call the FBI, or they, I don't know, in their line with a Pam Coronado, she's going to be on my show on Saturday, and she used to dream of missing children when she was working for the FBI, and she would dream about events months before they happened.
Did she see them through the eyes of the child or the perpetrator?
No, she would see the event.
From like the outside.
Right, and the server. And she was able to help catch the number of perpetrators, including she recommended the father-son Washington, D.C. sniper team of numbers ago, and she had dreamt about them before the attack started, and she was able to help to find them.
So, you know, the only way that we see people dream, you know, like the lady on Medium, is a Hollywoodized version. She always looks tortured to me. You know, she's always dreaming of something terrible. And she's trying to, you know, live her life with 3 kids and her husband, try to have a normal life, but every time she goes to bed at night, she's dreaming of somebody being murdered. And she, you know, it's just not as... if that is your only impression of dreaming, you might not want to dream. You might say, oh, you know, that's what that's about. I don't, you know, forget about that.